like to call the departmental meeting to order. If you would stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone watching at home. Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Trustee Carter?
Present.
Trustee Mariscal?
Present.
Trustee Kazam?
Present.
Trustee Gatt?
Present.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Present.
Trustee DeVore?
Present.
Okay. We would be at approval of the departmental minutes on Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020. I'd ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any questions or corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes have it. We would be at comments from the audience. Anyone who would like to address the board tonight, welcome. Please come to the podium, give your name and address, and if possible, keep your remarks under 5 minutes. Any comments from the audience? Going once, going twice. Comments are closed. We'll move on to old business. Any old business to come before the board?
Can we talk again about the burning ordinance? I know we talked about it not a couple weeks ago, but are we looking at all? Is anybody interested in looking any further into that and changing some of that at all? Or everybody's happy the way it is?
I'm happy with the way it is. I enjoy burning. It's already in effect. The ordinance we have takes care of all that. I don't think there's any reason to mess with it.
The only reason I'm saying that is because of, obviously, some of the citizens that have reached out to us that do have health issues and problems, and with the leaf burning and sometimes burning of the wet leaves and things like that, all the smoke and that, they're not able to open their windows and doors. I mean, we're not really representing ourselves and what we like. We have to represent the people.
I understand
So there's a lot of people out there with health issues. And
I have the same problem. I have a problem with the breathing and everything, but I'm not willing to change it. So I have a lot of people who like being able to burn.
Well,
and
can
take
we
care of
move it to where it's in a smaller time frame, where you're not able to burn all year long, but you can burn maybe in May and November, kind of like you had said that Chillicothe has?
Right, and I think back in April 16th, I sent out an email. Chillicothe, as an example, has an ordinance that allows landscape burning between April 1st and May 31st, and then again October 1st to December 15th, and only between the hours of 10 a.m. and sunset. So just an example of a town our size, well, similar in size, how their ordinance is structured.
So through the summer, would there really be any reason to burn leaves? I mean, most of your leaves are on the trees. And from what I did read, if you mulch them up, they're actually really good for your yard, if you mulch them and leave them.
And garden.
And your garden, yeah.
Are we having complaints where people are burning through the summer? Because I feel like the complaint comes up like in the spring and then in the fall. So if we go to these dates, which I'm good with going to these dates, is it solving the problem?
Well, I think it's a start, you know.
Yeah.
I would like those, and we have had quite a few reach out to know that we at least care and we're trying to you know, accommodate everyone. You know, we're not saying you can't have a campfire in your backyard or something like that, burning wood. We're just saying with the leaf burning and things like that, maybe we could limit that to just certain times so that those other people can enjoy being outside or having their windows or doors open. Or
I'm not opposed to those dates.
So if let's say we did do that, how do we notify the residents that we're changing? if we did change to that, how do we notify
It's gonna cause
the
a-
residents that this is now
put
the
it on-
burning ordinance?
You just put it on our website?
Yeah, I would recommend putting on our website, obviously, and do a media release on it, like anything else that we change, any ordinances we amend or change. I would say hit as many media outlets as we can. But yeah, we can, as far as our stance and complaints, yeah, we do get some, but we could draft we could amend the ordinance however the board wishes. But I'm not worried about getting the word out. Just like anything else, when we change ordinances or change speed limits on certain streets, there's a learning period that we don't go out with, an iron fist. We try to, educate the community first before, we start handing out fines. But until we do that, if you do have, talking about what Trustee Weisenberg said last meeting as far as what the ordinance states, if you do have neighbors that are burning, it's going into your house, give us a call. Let us talk to them, get this thing taken care of on the short term, if you have issues. But as far as notifying people, that won't be an issue. We'll hit every level.
So I do get a few calls every year about this time of year. Not a lot, but I had a couple of people call. So because of that, I put that on the agenda for you all to take a look at and just be aware of. I didn't sense that there was a majority of you that wanted to change anything, so I left it off this agenda. But Trustee Mariscal, if you want to try and build a consensus with a couple of other trustees, I'll be happy to put it back on the agenda any time.
I would be for it also, but I'm not for getting rid of it because that's just a tradition in the Heights and a lot of people like to burn. I personally don't burn.
I'm not saying
But-
that we have to ban it. I'm just
Right,
saying,
just have
can
the
we
dates,
limit it? Can we
the
limit it
months.
so that, both sides are, kind of feeling like we care about both sides? It's not just one-sided where,
Well, I'd be willing to compromise to go to, because it's too hot to burn during the summertime anyhow. And by then, there's nothing for me to burn anyhow. It's usually springtime, I gotta trim the bushes and everything, and then it's usually fall and spring that I do it, so. I wouldn't have a problem with some
what were the
restrictions.
dates on that again, Brandon?
The Chillicothe Ordinance is April 1st through May 31st, and then October 1st through December 15th, between the hours of 10 a.m. and sunset. I can forward this email back out.
And this would only be landscape waste, right? Like, this wouldn't affect the, small campfires? Correct?
I would be amenable to that as well, but I do want to comment again, because I think you made great comments last time, Brandon, about, if you're having an issue, we have
Right.
legal repercussion within our current
Right.
ordinance.
And that's where I'm kind of stuck too, because, like I said last time, if my neighbor, I don't burn either. But if my neighbor was filling my house with smoke, I'd be on the phone with Dustin. And it seems like,
For an example, Brandon, one of the people that reached out to me, I had given them that option, and they didn't want to cause problems with their neighbor. They were afraid that there might be some repercussions if they did, and there was nothing against calling the police, because I know the police would be there in a heartbeat to stop it, but
Right.
you got to think of,
right,
a lot of the people with the problems are probably
Yeah.
a little bit older and a little bit more fearful, and
right. Another thing I'm
You know.
concerned about is, using a leaf blower and blowing leaves into a pile and burning them is a heck of a lot easier than filling bags. And with people who have disabilities or the elderly, this is going to put a burden on them, whereas they used to be able just to burn it. Now they've got those bags are heavy. I bag mine. I don't burn my leaves.
But wouldn't
you
you
might
say
see me out in the yard with
between-
a two-wheel cart hauling these things around because they are heavy.
between May 31st and October 1st, are you really going to have that many leaves? I don't.
No. And that was my next point. On Glen Elm, and the house I'm referring to, they literally smolder leaves for like 2 weeks.
I know.
And it fills between October 1st and December 15th. and it fills the entire neighborhood with smoke. And this would, if we pass this ordinance, that would do nothing to address that.
Well, they'd have to have it out, right, by sundown?
At sunset, but they typically
Sunset.
do. But, yeah, I don't know.
You know, and you get into October 1st, you know, it's getting darker sooner, so, you know, they may have to have it out by
Right.
5, 6 o'clock. Might help. I think something's better than nothing. I hate to just ignore the problem, because I know since I've sat on the board, I've heard it several times. And we've never really taken any action on it. It's kind of like we just blow it off. But I know there are a lot of people out there with medical conditions that this is very important to them. So-
Could an ordinance be framed that, I know this is gonna sound preferential, but like, could we say it's not allowed above the hill, but it's allowed below the hill? Because I know there's a lot of people down, I mean, it's, living below the hill is not like living up here. You know, the house is a little bit more spaced apart. There's some people who don't have any neighbors at all.
You could, but I think you're generating a lot more
Right.
problems that way, Brandon. I think that if you restrict that to just everyone above the hill, or below the hill, I think that's gonna be an issue.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think that's setting a precedent that maybe, you know, setting us up for future failure as
Right.
far as other ordinances as well, but,
I've gotten a lot of complaints too, but one thing I've noticed, it's primarily people above the hill.
Because the houses are so much
Right.
closer up here.
Right.
I mean,
I agree.
much, much closer.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I would just encourage you all to, if you'd like this on the next agenda, Trustee Mariscal, if you'd work with some of the other trustees in the meantime, and there won't be a meeting.
Well, Brandon, are you in favor of some kind of ordinance?
Can I say I'm on the fence?
Okay, Sarah?
I would be on the favor of creating like a compromise, yeah.
Okay. Cheryl?
I would do what you guys had suggested. 2 times
I would
a year.
create a compromise, but I want to give it a little bit more thought, but
Oh.
I'm definitely open to it.
So you all want this on the agenda then at the,
I'm willing to talk about it.
Okay. Yeah, could we
Okay.
please? Thank
Stephanie,
you.
will you make note of that, please, Madam Clerk? Thank you. Any other old business?
I don't know if this is business, but I just wanted to ask a real quick question. Have we heard how far the candy shop, is it ready to open anytime soon, or the candy popcorn shop?
no, I know they've been working on it. I know they did a lot of work quick, and then it came to a standstill. And I know that they talked about fall opening, but I haven't had an update recently on where
Okay.
they're at, so.
I had driven by it the other day, and I was just wondering
Yeah.
where we were at on that, or where they were at, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
As soon as I hear something, I'll send something out to the board, though, if I hear any update from
Okay.
KDB Group.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, let's get right into new business then. We would be at Public Works with Trustee Carter. The first is an action item, a resolution in support of the application for roadway project funding through the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission. Trustee Carter?
Okay, so it's an action item, so I make a motion?
Yes, please. And do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, go ahead, Trustee Carter.
Okay, so this is a resolution that we have to put in place in order to get the funding to do the 2-inch mill and overlay project on Forest Park Drive with the Tri-County. I mean, this is just a standard step that we have to have in place.
Any questions?
Maybe a stupid one, but what is a 2-inch mill? And
Madam Clerk?
Do what?
what is the project?
The overlay of Forest Park?
They'll be milling off 2 inches down, and then they'll be doing asphalt on it.
Oh, street.
Yeah, the whole road, yeah.
Oh, okay.
From
Yeah.
Prospect down to Gardner Lane.
But
Okay.
you have to do the resolution to get the
But yeah,
funding
this is
for
one
it from
step, so
Tri-County.
we get the money through Tri-County. It's just a stepping stone.
The real reason for the resolution is that we're pledging that we'll pay 20%.
That's what I was getting
If
at
they
next.
pay 80%, that's why they need the resolution. They
So
don't want
rough-
to commit the funds if we're not going to commit our 20%.
So roughly like what, like 57,000? The 285 is the total project cost?
Whatever, yeah, 20%, yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, no,
All right, thank you. Good question. All right, Madam Clerk, if you're ready.
Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Kazan.
Aye.
Trustee Gett.
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg.
Aye.
Trustee DeVore.
Aye.
Thank you. Next is a discussion item, request from Illinois American Water to install a water main in a village easement.
Okay.
Dave?
So we're gonna call Dave up here, but this has been on the agenda before, where American Water wants to come through and put in some lines, and Dave can take it
Yep.
from
Good evening. Yeah, this was on the agenda. I believe it was back like maybe March, or actually it was after April. The Illinois American is requesting a 24-inch transmission water line. In the packet is the drawing. I know it's in black and white, sorry, but that kind of shows you the map of where they want to put it at. And I'll read what I got written down here just to refresh your memory. There is an update to this, and at the end, I'll mention what the update is, and then if Chief Sutton or Mr. Casey want to pipe in or chime in, they can. So Illinois American Water is looking to better suit their customers in the area of Pioneer Park and North University. And to do this, they need to connect two of their existing transmission lines, Boulevard to Francis Avenue on the trail. This proposed 24-inch water main would hook into their existing water main on the walking trail near Francis, run south on the trail, crossing under Glen Avenue, and continue south to the area behind Sherman's Warehouse. The water main would then turn west and head down Toledo Avenue to Boulevard, where it would also hook into their existing water main. This would be 5,000 feet of water main, and it would be directionally bored or drilled, which basically means it's all drilled underground. There is no digging of trenches or anything. Illinois American has agreed to install an interconnect valve on Toledo Avenue in front of the Toledo Tower, and these interconnect valves connect our water system with the Illinois American system. In case we have some sort of catastrophic failure, we could utilize Illinois American to provide water to our residents. That would be needed. We currently have 2 million gallons of storage in the air. Our average daily usage is about 800,000 gallons a day. So we have around 2.5 days of water storage to use in the air. If we have some catastrophic event here in the village that goes beyond 2 days, we need to give our residents water. So that's where those interconnect valves, and you turn a valve and you have water from them. We currently have one on East Lake Street by the VFW, and that is in need of repair, and they are also willing to replace that as well. So we'll have 2 interconnect valves with this idea. And then when I brought this to you guys a while back, there were some initial concerns about flooding on Toledo. Toledo has no storm sewers or curb and gutter. They've agreed to install automated control valves at each connecting point, and these valves are set to close if there is a sudden drop in pressure. If any issue would arise on this stretch of 5,000 foot of main, such as a water main break, these valves would close completely in approximately 60 to 90 seconds, therefore prohibiting any type of further water flow, which could potentially damage local property. If any damage was ever sustained due to a failure of any Illinois American infrastructure, they would hold responsibility for that damage and handle it accordingly. And again, this is nothing new. They have a 24-inch water main that runs on Boulevard, Hines, Illinois. So they do have water mains currently in our easement. This is the update. In lieu of allowing the water main on village easement, Illinois American Water, actually let me stop and start over. So the village is in desperate need of a dump site. And when I say dump site, I don't mean dumping garbage. I mean dumping leaves, dumping sludge and dirt from water main repairs. So when I say dump site, we say dump site, it really is a site just to dump leaves or refuge from water main repairs that we dig up. There's no garbage, there's no hazardous material, there's no paint, there's no oil. It's mainly street or clippings from the street sweeper. That's the main items. So I've been in conversation with them for many months about trying to help us out on what can you do for us to help us with a dump site. That's not a problem that is a Peoria Heights problem. It's a problem everywhere. People have nowhere to dump. It's expensive to dump at the landfill. We currently have $25,000 budgeted this budget year for that. I don't believe we've tapped into that yet. We're getting close, but we have not. So in lieu of allowing the water main on village easement, Illinois American Water has also agreed to gift the village a total of 10.66 acres of land to use as a dump site. This site is located just north of Gardner Lane on North Galena Road on the bluff side of the highway. This site is well off the road and is unused farmland that they currently own. They own about 90 acres down off Galena Road. We feel that this location would approximately give us 15 to 20 years of land to dump at zero cost to the village. Like I said, we currently have $25,000 budgeted for waste removal, and that's only gonna get expensive or more expensive as time goes on. The specific area, I had a map, but I forgot to add to the packet. It's north of the rear of the Forest Park Apartments. It's north of the old Champion Furnace building. Mike and I went down there. It's well off the road. It's secluded by trees. It's endless amount of, 10 acres is a very large area. There is, for comparables, there is a area on Terrace Court that is for sale, that is just under 10 acres, and that price tag is $335,000. So, do you want to chime in, Chief, with anything?
Yes, the reason why I wanted this on the agenda is just to refresh the board's memory of, what we discussed the first time this came around. And during that time, they were willing to compensate us, but they put a number to it to allow them to complete this work. Recently, obviously, as Dave mentioned, they came back with a possible other offer. I do not have a formal offer yet. I'm waiting on a letter of intent from them. Hopefully, I'll have it soon. It'll come back to the board at that time for us to review. But as Dave said, if that were to work out that way, that would ease a lot of issues that we have regarding dumping. But again, I don't want to go too far ahead of this because I don't have a formal offer. I think right now we're in the discussion phases. I expect to have something in a few weeks to bring back to the board, and then we can move forward if that's what they want to do. But if that is the case, I think that's a good thing for us if we get to that point. But I don't want to get out too far out ahead of that because I haven't seen anything yet. They could retract it. They could go another route with it. They could find another reason to do the work. But there are advantages to the village by doing this work, and that's why I wanted Dave to speak about it tonight, other than just the commitment or the compensation side of it, but, we would benefit from this work as well. So that's the reason I wanted him to come and discuss it, so we kind of refreshed our memory, because lots gone on since we first discussed this, so.
When did we first discuss this? Was it 2019?
We discussed it once before you were on the board, and then I brought it, at that time, at the first initial time, there was some flooding concerns if there was a water main break. 24-inch water main is a pretty large main. Then I went back to them and addressed those flooding concerns with them, and that's when they agreed to install these automated control valves at each end. And then I brought it back. I think that's where the, yes, yeah. So you were here for the second time, yeah.
I thought then they were supposed to have done it.
No.
Did it fall through, or?
No, nothing. There was, I went back to them, and I pretty much left it in their court, and that's when they contacted me again. They want to get this done. Yeah, this is a project they want to get done, so that's why, that's why it's back to us again.
So when it runs back by this trail here, they're just going to be directional boring there? They're not going to be actually digging out?
Yeah, there's no trenches. You'll never see it's all directional board. There's no trench digging or nothing.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And I don't know the depth, but it'll be pretty deep because it's such a large main.
Great.
So you're recommending that we go through with this, let them?
Yeah, if it happens, if this, like the chief said, if they do give us something informal, yeah, I think Mike agrees, yeah.
Right.
It's going to solve a lot of, first of all, it's going to open up $25,000 in the budget like that, and that.
$600 a truckload.
Yeah, it's $600 a truck. That's why we estimated $25,000 a year for.
Just get something together and bring it up.
Yeah, Mike and I have been working, we've known about this for the last year and a half or 2 years, and we've been working, and it's hard to find,
As soon as I get an update, I'll update the board, and we'll have it on the agenda for discussion and move forward, so.
Okay. Next would be the Samuel Avenue parking design. Trustee Carter, I'd ask for a motion to approve this.
I make a motion for the Samuel annual parking.
In a second, please.
Second.
Okay, go ahead, Trustee Carter.
Okay, so from my understanding, the chief, Kim, Mark, I'm not sure who else was in there. Were you in there? Alicia, yeah. all got together and came up with looks like maybe two options
That's exactly right.
of parking.
Yep.
So, do you want to take it over, Mark?
I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to. As we discussed at the last meeting, we had narrowed it down to two options. One would be angled parking that is traditional pull in going forward and back out into traffic. The other option would be the downtown Peoria back in parking where you pull past the spot and then back into it, and then when you're ready to leave, you pull straight forward out. So what we did after the meeting, and Katie Kim was okay with either one of these plans, but we redesigned the pull-in, back-out parking so as to create additional space, because that plan, if you recall from last week or the last meeting, did not have parking on the north side of the street, which we felt was pretty important. You've got a barbershop salon there. They've always had parking there. To restore that parking on the north side of the street and widen the lanes of travel, so they're 12-foot lanes, that gives you more of an opportunity to not have to pull over when somebody's coming toward you, should provide for free flow of traffic back and forth. I think the preference is the pull-in, the traditional pull-in back-out parking, but we can accommodate back-in parking as well. I think you should have gotten my email with the revised site plan that the engineer put together, showing the pull-in back out with the wider lanes. And by the way, the developer is giving up a foot of her property to accommodate moving that parking, that angled parking, a little bit closer to the building to give us more space to accommodate the parking on the north side. I've talked with Chief Walters about the fire issue that was brought up at the last meeting. 24 feet, while it's a little less than ideal, the ideal is 26. He said that they can definitely work with that. That's not going to create any kind of safety issues. The new code does not apply directly to this. It would apply, I think, to probably new construction, arguably, but it's not it's sort of an aspirational thing, not a mandatory thing. So we're not even saying that we're not going to apply a code that otherwise applies. It does not apply to the situation, but again, it does set sort of a standard and a goal. We're really close at 24 feet to 26. And like I say, I talked to the chief today. He's fine with it. So at this point, we'd like a motion from one of the trustees, hopefully a second, and vote on one of these two proposals. I think the preference would be pull-in, back-out parking, but we also have the plan for back-in, pull-out parking.
That would be my recommendation, is the pull-in, back-out park option.
I like that as well, and I should have emailed this question to you, but I do have a question before
Certainly.
I support this. I was looking at your sidewalk widths, and it looks like
Yes.
the sidewalks right now are 5 feet wide.
Correct.
And I looked online, and a ADA compliant sidewalk can be 4 feet, or it depends on the area.
Correct.
So would there be a way to narrow each sidewalk on either side of the street to 4 feet and get 2 more feet in the drive lane?
I think we could do that, and we talked about the sidewalks. The goal here is to have a lot of connectivity and free flow on the sidewalks, so I think we could get away with going to 4, but our goal going forward is to have 5-foot sidewalks everywhere.
Okay.
So I think, Katie gave up a foot of her property, and we're moving a little bit closer on the north end in order to not have to shrink the sidewalks down.
Okay.
On this drawing, the north end already is at 4.5 feet on the sidewalk. On this one,
Is that the new one?
is this
Barber shop side.
Yeah,
Is that the new one?
this is the most recent one you've sent.
Oh, yeah, it is 4.5.
Okay. I'm sorry, I should have asked this question.
No, that's okay.
Meeting, but
It kind of changes along that north side, Beth. I don't know if you can, it's like 4.5 feet, 4.5 to 5, and then back to 5. So they kind of narrowed it and then made it bigger there.
And I think the sidewalk on the south side, right in front of the building, is 4 feet.
Yeah.
It goes to 5 feet as you get farther east.
Okay.
So we're trying to squeeze as much as we can in that limited amount of space. But it works. Everybody, it's compromised by all parties. I think this is probably the best solution we're going to get to this, and we really need to move this project forward. So hopefully we can.
Well, on the building side, it does say 5 feet for the sidewalk. So we're keeping that 5 feet also? We're not shrinking that?
I guess so. Oh, yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. I saw the 4 foot to village, but I see where it says 5 foot sidewalk. So yeah, you're right, you're reading that correct, that is 5 feet.
So could you shrink it like what Beth said? To give it a little bit more room in the street, or no?
We could. This is a lot more room than most of our current streets.
So we have, it's 22, so, I'm sorry, this is.
24.
This is so tiny. It's 24, so.
You have drive lanes totaling 24
like a
feet.
typical, I mean, the smallest you could go in your garage is like, what, 24 deep by 12 feet wide? So it's not as small as you think it is. It's.
Right.
Is there an objection to shrinking the sidewalk? I just want to know if there's an objection to it, other than continuity going forward? Because
Yeah, it's inconsistent with what we're going to require going forward, and I don't think we want to set that precedent.
Okay.
Again, I think if this were more of a commercial traveled road, then, we would want, to do everything we can to get that width. But given that it's all residential, at least from this point east, that's the goal is to have those wider sidewalks. But it's up to you guys. I mean, if you want to make the proposal that we widen the lanes by a foot and shrink the sidewalks. Again, it's only 4.5 feet on the north side, so the most you would pick up would be 1.5 feet.
Why don't we just go ahead and leave it at 5 foot and get this project going? That's my recommendation.
Is that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion.
A second.
So this is a motion and a second to approve the pull-in back-out parking, correct?
Yes.
That still guarantees parking on the north side?
Correct.
Parallel parking on the north side?
Correct.
Okay. Yep.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Marisko?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Gett?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Trustee Carter, anything else under Public Works?
Yes, I think Dave has a couple things he'd like to announce.
Couple quick things, sorry, I'll make it quick. The fire hydrant memorial out here for Irene Hazenstein has been completed. It's painted, it looks great, so if you have a second, stop and look at it. And then also, Matt from Heights Flowers and their staff, they're going to donate, once again this year, fall flowers for Prospect and a couple pots at Tower Park. So thank you to the staff and Matt at Heights Flowers. That's it.
Thank you. That it?
Yeah,
Thank you,
that's
Trustee
it.
Carter. All right, we'd be at Economic Development. Trustee Kazam, the first is an action item, Ordinance 2020-1635, and ordinance amending the village code for the Village of Peoria Heights for the purpose of adding a new Chapter 8B, providing for licensing and regulation of pedicabs operating within the village. I'd ask for a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve this.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Go ahead, Beth.
So we all met, Mr. Mike McCormick came last week or the week before right now, I can't remember, and introduced himself, and he's been in communication with Peoria Heights. I think it was unanimous at those meetings that we were excited about his initiative to have a pedicab in our community. Does anyone have any questions about this?
Explain well. I think we thoroughly discussed this previously, so if everyone's ready for the question, Madam Clerk?
Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Marisko?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Gett?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
All right, that passes. Next is an action item, approval of a site plan application for 1324 East Samuel Avenue by P.H. Samuel LLC. Trustee Kazam, I'd ask for a motion to approve that.
I make a motion to approve this.
Second, please.
Second.
All right, go ahead, Beth.
This site plan application was heard at the last zoning board meeting. It was passed by the board of, the zoning board, and they're pretty nominal requests. I know Mark can answer any questions if anyone has any regarding, it's the fencing along the front of the property, and also there's something else, I wrote it down in my notes. Mark, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you covered it. There were several variances that were approved as well as part of the site plan, but it's really going to achieve consistency with the St. Jude home immediately next.
Any questions?
Yeah, I do. Because I think I'm lost. Is this the lot that's right next to the St. Jude home?
Just to the left of it, if you're looking.
Okay. All right, that's my question, I just want to make sure. So you're gonna build it just kind of like that one? It's gonna be,
It's going to be a little different. We're actually going to go 2 stories, 2 oversized stories, and then we'll actually have like a courtyard area. This is on a lot and a half, so we'll have a little bit more side yard in it, just kind of how it's laid out, but, yeah.
Just out of my own curiosity, will the exterior be similar? Or are you doing a different look?
No, we want to do a lot of clear story glass, so we want to let a lot of the light in, and we're raising the basement up out of the ground about 4 feet, so we'll have a 4-foot like storefront glass going right into the basement, and then pretty much open, and we kind of tuck it back in, to have a like quaint little courtyard area, and then a little breezeway, and then the garage in the back.
So you'll have a basement you can walk in, unlike a crawl space in the other unit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and we wanted a lot of natural light down there, so you'll have like a good 4-foot window, and then we'll have a basement, bedroom down there as well, so we'll have a.
Yeah, residential.
Thank you.
It should just get like, what?
Sorry, that was my own curiosity. It's not pertinent to this question.
I guess I just was inspirational images.
Okay, I don't know if anyone else has any questions.
Anyone else? Madam Clerk?
Trustee Carter?
aye.
Trustee Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Gett?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
Thank you, that passes. Trustee Kazam, anything else?
No, thank you. No.
Okay, on to administration. Trustee Gett, the first is an action item, donation of $1,000 to Peoria Heights Congregational Church Food Pantry. May I have a motion to approve that?
I make a motion to donate $1,000 to
Second, please.
Second.
Peoria Heights.
Okay, Jeff, go ahead.
I don't have a problem with the deserving thing. I'm going to take care of this food. We got a lot of people here that can't afford food, and this is a very good organization. Same with the next one, so I don't have a problem. Anybody want to have a problem with it? I mean, I say we just go ahead and vote on it.
Thank you, and I know, I agree with you. We had a lot of need in the community prior to coronavirus. That's contributed to the need and the demand on the food pantries. I commend both of these churches for all they're doing in the community. So I think we have the motion, the second. Madam Clerk, if you're, Trustee Weisberg?
Are these budgeted funds?
Yes, they are.
Anyone else? Whenever you're ready, Madam Clerk.
Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Gett?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
Okay, so next is the donation to St. Thomas in the amount of $1,000. Same thing, so could I have,
Second verse.
they're on the agenda separately, so another motion, please.
Yes, I make a motion to.
In a second?
$1,000.
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk?
Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Gett?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
Thank you all. All right, next is an action item. It's a recommendation to cancel the meeting on November 3rd, 2020, Election Day. So Trustee Gett?
I make a motion to cancel the meeting for November 3rd on Election Day.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Go ahead, Trustee Gett.
Well, I'm gathering, because if we don't have anything going on that day, anything will be on the meeting. I mean, do we, Chief? If you know of, it's a month away.
I don't have the agenda that far in advance yet, but if it's something the board feels they would like to cancel, I'm in favor of that.
I don't have a problem with it. I mean, if you want,
Any discussion?
anybody else?
Okay, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Are we, hang on, we're just, because I don't think we've ever done this before, canceled a meeting because of election. But what happens if we have something that we need to vote on that day? Are you gonna call us, or?
Will it be put on the next week's agenda? Oh, wait, let's see what the,
Yeah, if the board decided to cancel the meeting, and obviously any items being placed on the following agenda, the next meeting, so.
Which would be 2 weeks.
it would be the 17th, or obviously you know in advance most of what we discussed, so it could be on the 27th of October.
Right. Either
Okay.
before or after.
In the unlikely event there's some emergency matter that needs attention, you can always schedule with 48 hours' notice a special meeting.
Okay.
So I think we're covered, in other words.
Okay.
Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Marisko?
Hi.
Trustee Kazan?
Aye.
Trustee Gett?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
No.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
Okay, that passes. Trustee Gadd, anything else?
No, Chief, you have anything else? No?
Okay, on to fire then. Trustee Weisenberg, you have a discussion item on the fire department survey questions and methods. Take it away.
I do, thank you, Mayor. I know, I think Mark sent out some sample questions, what was that, last week or the week prior? I sent a response back. I know I've had a few discussions with a few of the trustees. One of the difficulties is it's really hard to come to a consensus on what questions should be on a survey when we can't really have a conversation with all of us on email. So I'm just looking for some feedback on the questions that Mark had proposed. And then hopefully this meeting we can nail down the questions, because this could go on forever. We've had this item now at least 3 or 4 times. So I would really like to fine tune what those questions are going to be on the survey. I don't think we've even nailed down the ballot question yet, but we have some time for that. But the way I see it, the survey would come first, and then the ballot question.
Correct.
So just open discussion.
We have until sometime in February to submit the ballot question, so
Okay.
plenty of time.
So we got some time. My hope is that we'd release a survey and maybe do if COVID permits it, a few town hall meetings, informal with the residents, I assume. But any input on the questions, or?
So did you want to have the town meetings first before we do the survey, or?
I thought we'd do the survey first, just to stir up interest.
Well, from the onset, I always thought this was more of an educational component of this, so maybe the first question should be to our residents, are you aware that this issue is, being considered in our community? Like, are you aware that we have to make a decision one way or the other? That's the first question. And then going on from there, we could discuss the different possibilities. I don't think we need more than 3 to 5 questions.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think the next question is, do you want to keep your fire department, Peoria Heights? I think that should be on there, point blank, is what
Or
we're
it
talking
could be,
about.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. That wasn't very kind.
Well, point blank, that's what we're talking about,
Yeah.
is getting rid of our fire department. And
What,
that should be on the survey. Do you want to,
it would be something like, how important is it, are you willing to keep your fire department and have, to what degree are you willing to keep it?
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how to word it, and Mark can give us advice on that, but there has to be a little bit more than, do you want your fire department in Peoria Heights, or do you want to outsource to Peoria?
Yeah, I think you also have to outline all the options, and then, also how much those options are going to cost. I think we have to hit every layer of this. I don't think the question can be just really broad. I think, of course, we want to keep something, but I think you have to educate the residents on, what the options are, and whether it be, outsourcing it or retaining it, and what that consists of. I think once you hit all that, there are your questions. And as far as the verbiage,
Yeah, the 5 questions I recommended started off with some presumptions, and maybe I shouldn't have assumed anything, but one of the overriding assumptions is that if outsourcing is going to cost more than keeping the fire department, I didn't think that the village had any choice at that point. I figured we would assume to keep our fire department if it was going to cost less than outsourcing to, Peoria or any other community for that matter. So I didn't ask the question both ways because I don't think we need input from people. If it's going to cost more to outsource, we're keeping our fire department. So that's an overriding assumption that I made, and I need to hear from you if that's not an accurate assumption.
So, I'm sorry.
I guess I feel like because we're talking about this so much, it's like on the forefront of our mind, but I don't think we can assume that everybody who's reading this is going to think of it that way.
Of course.
So I feel like there needs to be some kind of okay, which one would you prefer if they cost, right now you're saying it's gonna cost $153,000 and ours is gonna cost whatever. But I don't think that that's a fair judge because in 3 years, it's not gonna cost $156,000.
Correct.
I just feel like it needs to be a little bit, laid out a little bit more. So I don't know if we explain each of the options first and then ask the questions. I don't know if it's a 2-page sheet, here's an information sheet. If we go with the city of Peoria, this is what it will look like at this price plus
Sure.
a 3% increase every year. If we do this route, it's gonna cost the village this much money and then ask the questions. But I feel like we do have to be a little bit more, we have to give them more information, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. It needs an introduction before you just ask the questions.
And I agree with what you said, Council. I mean, if outsourcing is more expensive than keeping our fire department, that seems like
Yeah, that's a
that's not
no-brainer.
an option we want to consider.
Correct.
Well, the rep from Peoria said he didn't know where this number came from. That it could be higher, could be lower. Peoria has publicly stated that it costs them $1,250 every time a fire truck leaves their station.
I understand all
Well,
of
it
that.
depends on the calls.
No,
If
no.
what
according
he
to-
said here was, it would depend on the call. If we only had, say, 10 calls a month, then that's all they're charging, is the 10 calls a month.
No, I get that.
But it's like $750 for the
The-
fire truck, $750 for the chief, and
The number they came up with is
Yeah.
based on 2019 call load.
call
And
off.
that's,
Yeah.
and they can't.
So it could go up.
It could go up or down, that's what he said, and he, they had to have some working point, so they just took 2019's numbers.
Yeah.
So the point is, it could cost more. The point is, it doesn't cost Peoria $700 every time they send a fire truck. It costs them $1,250. They've publicly said it many times. Peoria Journal-Star has all kinds of articles.
But
So
We'll
they're
say
charging-
that in the question, that the
So they're
base
charging us
cost is
less.
this, and it could go up or down.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I found that suspect because they're charging us less than it actually costs them. And I know Peoria doesn't have a track record of making great calls. I get that. But every time they said, oh, it costs this, they've always come, you can search online. They say, oh, it's going to cost this, but then they come back and say, oh, no, we've discovered the real cost, and they bump the cost way up. That's what it looks like about to happen.
So I do think though too, when they're saying it costs them $1,250 to go on a call or to take a fire truck, I think they are assuming as well that they're sending a battalion chief too, right? So they're charging us $750 for a truck, $750 for a truck, an engine, and then whatever they're charging us for the chief. They're sending a chief on every call, so even though they're telling us it's $750 and they're telling us on the media that it's $1,250, it's because they're automatically assuming if they're releasing a truck, they're automatically releasing a battalion chief too, right? So they maybe could just come out to us and say, well, if we send a truck, we're sending a battalion chief. We may not have to send a truck, an engine, and a battalion chief, but they're at least sending two, right? They're gonna send a truck and a chief or an engine and a chief.
Right.
So I
what's
think
the
maybe
true
that's
cost?
where, whatever they probably $750 plus what they were charging us for the chief. So I don't remember what that was off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. What was it, $100 more?
Who's $100, correct.
So,
That's
I mean,
still
it's still
$850.
off, but I think maybe
Right.
that's probably why they're doing that.
I just kind of find anything from Peoria suspect, that's all. I mean, my history growing up here in the Heights, and I just would like to see, if we're going to spend this money, why give money to Peoria? I'd like to figure out a way to keep the fire department. I just don't like giving money to Peoria, that's all.
Personally,
I like to try and keep our fire department in Peoria Heights.
Personally, when people read the survey and they see Peoria, I would never vote on anything going to Peoria. If I wanted to live in Peoria, I'd live in Peoria. I think most of the citizens in Peoria Heights don't want anything to do with Peoria. I guess I shouldn't speak for everybody, but most of the people I've spoken to, they don't have any question about the capabilities of the Peoria Fire Department, but they do not trust the government of Peoria. That kind of sells itself right there.
Just a suggestion to maybe save time. We should probably have a discussion about whether we're willing to outsource to Peoria at any cost. And if the answer to that is no, then this whole exercise is academic and serves no purpose.
Well, let's just take a vote then.
No, I absolutely think, okay, we should take a vote because we have to consider, even though I agree with what you're saying, Brandon, we can't look at an opportunity to save money. We have to look at both of these opportunities. We have to entertain both options intelligently. And regardless of what we think up here, the residents need to be informed about what's going on.
That was my assumption as to the purpose for this, so.
I get it, but if I understand what Mark just said, I think he said if we collect all the data, but there's still a majority of us that won't do it regardless, then what's the point of even collecting the data?
Well, this is a
That's exactly what I said.
Well, it's a non-binding referendum. Don't you want to hear from your residents, from people?
I mean, we can, but like Mark just said, it would be futile.
Did you say that it would be futile if we?
No, I mean, here's the thing. If a majority of this board is unwilling to outsource fire protection to the city of Peoria, regardless of the cost savings to be achieved, then getting a bunch of information from the citizens about how they want to save money it's absolutely informative, and I think you should use every opportunity to get input from the citizens. But I understood that we wanted to at least entertain the option, and I'm starting to hear, at least from some trustees, that they're not going to entertain the option regardless of the savings because of several different factors. So,
Well, I don't think anybody wants to outsource the fire department in a perfect world.
right.
But we're faced with a situation, and I said it before, there's a cause and there's an effect, and here we sit. So we have to, in a perfect world, we wouldn't have this issue, but we do. I guess that, we have we have another option now because Chief Walters isn't retiring, so he's trying to recruit, a handful of new firefighters, so we're not back in that issue. But I don't think if you were to ask anybody up here, they want to outsource to Peoria in a perfect world, but we're in a position where we have the issue is volunteerism. We don't have certain coverage during the time, so it's a public safety issue. So, but if the board, then if you're wiping out the outsource portion of this, then there are really only two options, and that's, we have to come up with a paid crew, and then how are we going to pay for it?
No,
Unless Chief Walters is going to, last time he said he had 4 new recruits, seemed like he was on the right path, that was going to close that gap, maybe that will, that'll close the gap for a period of time, and we don't even have an issue because we have volunteers coming out and fighting fires and going to calls, and we don't have that mass amount of missed calls that we did, and it's all fixed. But I don't know how long or what his future is as far as how long he's going to be with us. It could be an extra month, could be another 6 months, another year. I'm not sure if you've had that conversation with him, Trustee Weisenberg, but I haven't had that conversation with him.
I agree. He's given us the gift of time at his expense and loyalty, which is amazing. But we can't just go back to this, this like sense of complacency where we're like, okay, now Chief Walters is here and we don't have to address this decision.
Is the consensus that the majority of us wants to hear what the village, residents have to say?
I do.
I do. The main question I want to know is, are they willing to pay for it?
Are they
willing to go to the extent to help pay for it? And that means taxes.
Well, part of
safety tax. And it's not just a safety where it can be used on safety, it's safety fire department tax. Where if it's on your property tax, that money has to go to the fire department. It can't go anywhere else.
Correct. I agree.
That's my main question. I would want the citizens to be asked.
So is that then considered a fire protection district?
No.
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 Okay, no, it's not.
No. And, you know, what Trustee Carter is talking about, it's the same template for the board members that were here at the time that we used for the ambulance department. We went from a volunteer to a paid, if you remember that. It's the same template, but then it was costing us. Now, the fire portion of this will be much more than the ambulance was, because the ambulance was actually bringing in money, and we got to the point where we were getting 93% collection rate and still losing $150,000 a year, if you remember right. This is a bigger amount of money that we're talking about, because the fire department does not generate revenue, obviously. But it's the same template as far as tearing it down, recruiting, bring it in and pay for it. We'd have our own.
I agree with you to an extent, but back then, we weren't bringing in that much revenue, and actually, to cover the cost, and what I'm saying is if it gets on the property tax, it would be a line item that is taken care of, that doesn't come out of our general fund.
Well, and we did
Right?
not increase any taxes to pay for the ambulance.
Right.
That was based
Right,
on,
right.
that came out of general corporate, and whatever it didn't cover with the revenue coming in, we covered it, so.
Right, but what I'm talking about is if it gets on the property tax as a safety tax or whatever it is, that wouldn't come out of our general fund. That's
Correct.
paid, that's already paid, so whatever's in our general fund.
But keep in mind, any tax like that you levy is a year in arrears. So from the year that you levy it in December, it's going to be a whole calendar year plus 6 months before you get anything. So when you make that decision, if you made it this year and you levied for it in December, it would be fall of 2022 before you got any dollars.
Still have to fund for it until it got on.
Exactly.
Right. I mean, that's a question that the residents need to be asked. It needs to be asked. That's one of the questions that need to be asked.
I can tell you.
Well, and I did ask it. I mean,
Are willing for that. I mean, they want to pay for it. They want to keep it heights. Most of them. I mean, I haven't heard from the entire village, but there are some that say they don't want to do it, don't want to increase their tax, but most of them, people I've talked to, they're willing. They want to keep it Peoria Heights Fire Department.
Well, that's my input on the question part of it.
Okay.
That's my main question is,
We need to.
the citizens want to be out there,
survey
they're
out.
on the Facebook, they're telling us that they want
Sure.
to keep it, then give them that option, ask that question. And in
Well, the
public
ta- the
hearing,
tax
whatever
question-
you have, ask it again.
I mean, because that's.
It needs to be asked.
That's what they're willing for.
That's the fourth question on the list, though. Are you willing to pay additional property taxes in order to avoid outsourcing fire protection within the village?
Yeah,
Would you
but
like that reworded?
I would almost reword, because I would read that as property tax. I want a line item that says, safety tax, fire department, where it can't be used for anything else but the fire department.
Okay.
Doesn't go into, you know what I mean, like a general fund or anything.
Right.
That means 10 years down the road, when a lot of us probably won't, well, some of us won't be here, but at least it's there, and we don't have to worry about it.
Some of the concerns.
that's an easy change, and that's the point of this discussion is, how do we change the wording of these questions so that we're getting better information back from the community?
It's going to be hard asking the citizens of Peoria Heights to pay more money when we had a $500,000 surplus last year. Okay, the governments are supposed to tax and spend. They're not supposed to tax and save. Okay, I think the general fund can only reach a certain limit before it's illegal to, what is it, a budget year, Stephanie? How much money can you hold in your general fund?
Well, Trustee Weisenberg, considering we didn't actually have best practice, which is at least 3 months of bills and reserves before this $500,000 surplus, we were not in any danger of violating anything. We needed
No,
to build
I
our
understand that, but
reserves.
you're supposed to tax and then pay for government services. You're not supposed to tax people and then run massive surpluses. That's not the way the government is supposed to run. So we had a $500,000 surplus last year. The first quarter, we ran a $100,000 surplus. Do we know second quarter numbers yet? Are we
Second quarter ends October 31st.
October 31st, so a bit premature. So let's hope we're running another surplus. So we're running all these surpluses, but then we're telling the people of Peoria Heights, hey, we need to increase your property taxes. That's insane.
We're not
How-
telling them, we're asking
Well,
if
asking
they
them,
want.
asking them.
If they want, it's an option.
No, I understand that. So
It's
we're
just-
asking
it's
them,
out there.
I get that. So we're asking them to pay more money when their government body is running a surplus.
Well, the surplus is for rainy days, you know, you
The
can't
rainy
just-
days is our fire
Well,
department.
I understand
Well,
that, but.
rainy day is that we have a lot of water main breaks, and it's gonna probably happen. We have a lot of water mains that are very, very old. I can't even believe they're still
I understand that.
connected.
I understand
We're
that.
gonna have to budget for that in the future, we gotta get them replaced and fixed and going.
I'm not saying we don't have a lot of issues we have to take care of. I'm
I
saying
mean, I
that
could see where
when
we
it
could do
comes
that
to spending,
500,000
the only
somewhere
time we
else.
talk about tax increases is when we're referring to the fire department. So if we do have a lot of those fixes, why not instead fund the fire department and then ask the people of Peoria Heights for additional taxes for infrastructure? Why do we only talk about tax increases when we're talking about the fire department? We spend a lot of money here, but the only time we ever talk about tax increases is when the fire department's mentioned. We also talk about volunteer fire departments as if they're an abstract thought. Where Peoria's model is an abstract thought. 85% of all fire departments in the United States are volunteer. Whether you like it or not, whether they have enough volunteers or not, the majority of fire departments are volunteer. That's just the way it is.
Well, my next question was going to be, is this board comfortable with if Chief Walter was able to sustain the volunteer department? Are you comfortable with that? If, let's say if he comes back in 2 months and says, you know, we've doubled our volunteers on paper, and they're coming out, they're going to calls, I mean, are we happy with that structure there? And then we're not looking at a paid crew either way. We will continue as a volunteer, and I think that that's what he's trying to do. Is the board comfortable with that?
My response to that would be is Peoria can't even maintain their own response times. They're talking about not responding to EMS calls. So I don't think relying on Peoria and, you know, having a house in the Heights on fire and telling the Heights citizens, well, you guys got to wait because the first responsibility of Peoria is Peoria. I don't think that's a good, I'm not comfortable with that either.
No, I'm not
that's
asking,
not-
this has nothing to do with Peoria. I'm asking if this board is comfortable. If we have, since Chief Walters is not retiring, and he builds this up like he talked about, are we comfortable with that? I'm not comparing to Peoria, Brandon.
If he builds
I'm just
it
saying,
up.
are you guys comfortable with that option?
Yes.
If he
Yes.
builds-
Yes.
if he
Yes.
builds that up?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
That's all I'm asking.
Most towns under 10,000 people are volunteer in the United States.
They are, but most people don't have the volunteer issues that we do. I wish we didn't, but you can't compare us to Bartonville and some of these other communities that just have, well, you heard Chief Tuttle say, 52 volunteers, 0 missed calls in 5 years. I mean, that's, a lot of those departments are built that way. We're unique. We're unique at every level because of where we're located, who we're surrounded by. And, you know, the volunteerism has been an issue for a long time, but I know he's trying to build it up, and I wish him luck, and I said that. I just wanted to ask the board if they're comfortable, if he pulls this out of the ashes, and all of a sudden we have a surplus of people here that are willing to volunteer and give their time. In a perfect world, that would be it, and I hope he does. But would the board be comfortable with that? If we end up having, let's say, 25 volunteer firemen that are responding to all the calls, would we still be looking to go to a day shift coverage?
No, I think.
No,
that-
okay, that's all I was asking.
But
Then,
at some point, we are going to have to address the issue of a chief. because-
yes.
Yeah.
Well, I think
I would
that,
still say it full-time.
yeah, if he builds this up, and you know, that's a different process, obviously. But, you know, I just wanted to see where the board stood on that, if he, you know, because I'm wishing him well, and I hope he does it, then our problems are solved.
Right,
You know.
that would be the best scenario.
Right.
Okay, so Brandon, you had you had questions that you came up with, because I mean, we're kind of getting off track on this. What are the questions you would like to see on the survey? I would just like to know, because since you're over the fire department, what questions would you like to see on the survey?
My concerns were more with how the questions were worded. I think we've all agreed, I believe we've all agreed that, you know, the taxes may have to be increased for the Peoria option as well. I don't think anyone here is on record saying that, no, we'd never have to raise taxes to pay for our outsourced fire protection from Peoria. So my concern always has been is if we tell the people of Peoria Heights that it's going to cost less, what do we tell them when it costs more and we still have to raise taxes?
Okay.
So can we go through these line by line, like
So with
question
this-
by question and say how we want, like, are you comfortable with the wording, are we not comfortable with the wording? So that we can make a decision on this?
I think the more productive way to do this, because it's not like we have to have this published tomorrow, would be for everybody to give input. And, you can copy two people. So, Trustee Weisenberg is the fire trustee. So I would strongly encourage everyone to respond to that email with suggestions for wording, new questions entirely. I mean, don't limit yourself to what I suggested. I was just trying to get the ball rolling. But if everybody could respond, copy me, copy Trustee Weisenberg, copy Chief Sutton, I'll compile, or Trustee Weisenberg can compile, and then we can come back and have more productive talks rather than have this try to be a working session where everybody throws out ideas. I think that happens a lot more productively if you do it at your leisure while you have time to think about it and suggest language. And we can come back at the next meeting and say, we got some recommendations from Trustee Carter on this question, Trustee Mariscal wanted to reword this one. And put it back out to everybody. I think that's a lot more of a productive method.
So can we email our questions to everyone as long as everyone's not responding to it, correct?
You don't want everybody sending emails to everybody. What I'm suggesting is send an email with your recommendations to me and Trustee Weisenberg. And that's okay, because there's only two of you.
Okay.
And if everybody does that, then we would do the legwork of compiling all of that, giving due credit to everybody that, responded. And I think that's going to be more productive, and we're going to get where we want to get quicker that way. Or
Okay,
we
that
set a
sounds-
Saturday, a Saturday meeting where we have a working session, but to do it at a meeting like this, because it's going to take some time.
I think that's a good suggestion.
We'll move forward on this, and we'll let people work with you and Chief Sutton. Trustee Weisenberg, anything else under fire?
Nothing.
Do you have any information on new recruits, about how many and how they're progressing?
I don't, but I'll get that information.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we would be at police. Trustee DeVore, we have an action item, approval of a collective bargaining agreement between the Village of Peoria Heights and the Police Benevolence Labor Committee. I'd ask for a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve the collective bargaining agreement.
Second?
Okay, back to you, Trustee DeVore.
So the Policeman's Benevolent contract was due like pre-COVID or like in the middle of COVID, and they were so gracious as to hold off on their agreements with us. So we've negotiated back and forth with them. Everything that is in here is what we just talked about in executive session. So now we're just here to approve it, and so we can get this moving since they have been on hold for so long. I know Chief Sutton has some things he wants to add to this too.
I just wanted to applaud the mayor, the board of trustees, the police benevolent, just for having the foresight to delay this after first quarter and review it to see where we were financially. I think that was a really professional move, and I know I speak for the entire police department when I say, thank you for your continued support. This is a good contract for both parties. It is something we can afford. There were some pieces in this contract that we talked about in executive session that really, as I explained, we've been very lucky to retain the officers we have for many years during my administration, and this is I think is a good gesture on parts of this to show them our appreciation. So again, I thank everyone for their support, and you should be very proud of the men and women of this police department because they represent us very well. So, but again, thank you for all your support.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk?
Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Gatt?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
All right, that passes.
Resounding.
Trustee DeVore, anything else under police?
No.
Thank you very much for tackling that. That was a major chore. Thank you. Okay, miscellaneous. Any miscellaneous business to come before the board? Hearing none, we would be at payment of the bills. I'd ask for a motion to pay the bills.
I make a motion.
In a second.
Second.
Any question on the bills or discussion on the motion? Madam Clerk?
Trustee Carter?
Aye.
Trustee Mariscal?
Aye.
Trustee Kazam?
Aye.
Trustee Gett?
Aye.
Trustee Weisenberg?
Aye.
Trustee DeVore?
Aye.
Okay, that passes. The bills are paid. Trustee Gett,
I make a motion to adjourn.
in a second.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion to adjourn signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We're adjourned.